So I guess, I should start by saying hello, really, shouldn't I?
Hi,
That's
Tom.
how these podcasts start, isn't it? We say hello.
Hi, Tom. Nice to meet you.
And you, as if we haven't just spent the last few days together.
Yeah.
But that has been really nice. So I've been really lucky to come down and spend a few days with you and see some of the gardens that you're working on and that you've worked on for a while, like this one where we are today. So tell us about where we are, first of all.
So, yeah, you've come down and seen from the nitty-gritty of a landscaping job into what is, well, in my opinion, a very, very beautiful garden. This is my only, what I'd call a maintenance job, because I do look after it like as a normal gardener would, but I also do little small-scale projects and interventions here. But basically, we're in Limpley Stoke, which is just outside Bath, and it's like 10 minutes from Bath, but you feel like you're completely detached, don't you?
Well, you can't. Well, maybe we'll have to take a few video clips, but you can't see what we can see. There's a beautiful view just of like hills, and there's a river down the bottom, and it is the most beautiful view. And then we're sat in this most beautiful garden that you look after, so feeling very lucky, and a beautiful setting for us to have a little chat.
Yeah, it is. It's a dream. I mean, I work here every week, as well as doing the design work and the landscaping and everything else. But so many people are like, oh, why do you still do like a normal gardening job, or why do you do that? And I'm like, because I just need to be here because it's so lush, basically.
Yeah, I can see why. And I imagine after everything else, all the hecticness of filming and whatever else you're up to, and the big jobs that you've got on construction and stuff like that, this is a nice one to come to.
It's a dream, yeah, and I get to have fun and experiment with plantings and making stuff, and the clients are, the best people in the world. It's a dream garden.
So before we get into all of that, because obviously I do really want to know about all of that stuff, how did you actually end up getting into gardening in the first place?
So it's a long story, but basically my parents, well, my mum and my stepdad, who I grew up with, who's my stepdad since I was 2, they both worked so hard. They had like the most ridiculous work ethic. Both, we never had any money. Both very underpaid in, but they worked really hard. That's what my stepdad's worked 6 days a week, all of his life. So even when I was a little kid, and like my mum would always be working split shifts, so if they couldn't get me, a family member to look after me, I would just go to work with my stepdad. So he's a forester for the Forestry Commission, but he also does, he used to do cut firewood for people. So I used to go splitting logs, even as like a 10-year-old, for like a whole day, and he'd give me £5 for a day's splitting wood or something. I used to do that a lot, and hedge laying and stone walling, and we'd go and work for farmers, and so I'd do all these. I was young and really little, so my impact was probably small, but I was always working.
But it gives you that bug for the work ethic, doesn't it?
Yeah, so and I've had that since from them, and then I used to, even into my teens, I was still doing stuff with him in the woods, and then when I got my first gardening job was at the hotel where my mum worked, actually, and she got me a job as a gardener there, and that was when I was 15, and then at the same time I started waiting tables there, so I'd garden on the weekends there, but in the weekdays after school, I would go and work as a waiter in the hotel.
Okay.
And it was really funny because I'd be on the weekend gardening in the day, and then in the evening I'd go and wait tables at night, and the guests would be like, aren't you the boy that was weeding the beds outside our room this morning? I'm like, yeah, that was me, and I'm serving your food. So that's
I do everything.
Yeah, and that's where I started, and I trained under the head gardeners there whilst doing all this other work.
And your mum obviously knew then that you were really. Had you just caught the bug for gardening through the stuff that you'd done with your dad and everything else?
Yeah, but to be honest, all of my family are sort of connected to it in a way. So my stepdad with his forestry thing, so I liked being outside. My mum was a keen hobbyist gardener at home, and then my actual dad, he liked tending to his garden. He's not worked as a gardener or anything like that, but he liked growing veg and things. So he used to do stuff with him, and my granddad, who not been with us for years, but he used to be a gardener. So there's all these connections.
Yeah.
But I just really, I liked it. I like being out. I like using all the tools, and I like learning. So much to learn from these people who were like super wise. And in my eyes, they were really old probably when I first started. Actually, I don't think they were that old, but they were really just full of knowledge. So I I started doing work with them, and then once people, even this, I was only still 15, 16, and then other people in the area knew that I did good gardening, so I just go and do maintenance for this person and that person. So all through school I was doing maintenance after school and on the weekends for people. And then eventually I started working with a garden designer near where I lived at home whilst I was at college. I used to go and do like a day a week or more with him, just on his own garden, just learning from him. And that's kind of what really he really stepped it all up for me, actually.
Oh wow! And I guess it just went from there, and you just kind of got more and more different clients and people to work with, and
kind of, because you can't, yes and no. I mean, I was still all doing that on the side, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Like, I enjoyed doing that and I loved it, but I knew I was doing it because I wanted to work and I wanted to learn, but I didn't know I wanted to be a garden designer or anything at that point.
No.
I was like being really bad at school, and I was always
were you
smart.
a naughty child at school?
I was a bad boy.
Yeah,
I was good at school up until GCSEs, and then A levels come around. You know, they try and shoehorn you into stuff, and I wanted to bunk off school and go to the skate park.
I don't think you really know what you want to do at that age, do you?
No, you didn't. But I knew I liked to work.
Well, you did. You knew that. Yeah, exactly. You liked to work, and I did something. I did really similar, actually. I knew that I wanted to work, and by the time kind of studying and exams came up, I was just working.
Yeah.
I just loved the experience and doing stuff and earning money.
It's as it, you feel like you've got a purpose, and you're getting money, and you're still learning stuff, like in a more practical way. And that's so I kind of did A levels and just didn't do really great, but it worked as well. And then I went to Duchy College in Cornwall and studied like an ecology and conservation course. So it was really hands-on.
Wow, that's a great course to do, right?
Yeah, it was brilliant. And that was we did loads of hands-on, like sort of conservation work and land management stuff and all this. So that was really good, and that gave me the qualifications I needed to then actually apply to do a garden design degree, because that it
kind of led you down that path. Yeah.
So sort of a weird up and down start, and the whole time I was all doing sorts of weird work. I've been a Christmas pudding salesman, a chutney salesman. I used to work on building sites as a labourer. I used to do all sorts
just
of weird
all that
things.
Stuff to help you do what you wanted to do and fund your life. Yeah. That's good though. You're clearly a grafter. You're up for anything.
Yeah, and I'm proud to be a grafter. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. Well, we were talking yesterday actually on the site, weren't we, about the fact that you do get stuck in, and Ben, who works with you on Garden Rescue, was saying, you do actually really get stuck in. It's not all for the cameras and stuff. Like, you really will get stuck in and do stuff.
It pains me sometimes, because when you're filming these shows, sometimes they might want you to, they might get a landscaper to like do something, and then you come in and try and finish it off and make it look like you've done it.
Yeah.
And I pretty much 99% of the time will refuse to do that, because one, I hate taking credit from someone else.
Yeah.
And two, I hate pretending I've done something when I haven't, especially if it's something that I wouldn't do myself.
Yeah.
I like doing timber work, and I can do a bit of paving, but I'm not, I don't claim to be good at laying stone and stonework. But if it's something it's not my thing, and I'm pretending I've done it. Oh God, I don't like it. But you do have to do it in TV sometimes. Yeah,
exactly. Well, before we get into that, we kind of jumped on.
Sorry.
But you're doing garden. You got into garden design. You've done you've started doing that, and then how did you end up getting on to Garden Rescue, and how did that come about?
So obviously I worked my way up, and I worked for a company, and then I set up my own business after that, and then once I was doing my own business for a bit, I'm part of the SGD, this is Society of Garden Designers, and they actually just sent out a block email, I think, saying, is anyone interested in TV opportunities? And I also got an email similarly from this production company, because I'd been spotted in 30 Under 30, a pro landscaper magazine thing.
Yeah.
So I kind of had a bit of a double whammy, and I thought, oh, TV, well, what's that going to be? So I've just replied, yes. I don't know what it is.
Why not?
And then I kind of got a few back and forth emails. I had to give a bit of a CV and a bio, and then they said they liked me. Could I do some self-filmed screen tests, because it was COVID, they wouldn't come out. So I did some of those here, actually, where we are. And they were really funny, because one of them I got Zoe to film, and it's like me talking, but you can just hear her breathing behind the camera. Like
Brilliant.
but the thing, what made them stand out is that because I grew up watching all these gardening shows, so I filmed all this stuff, and I filmed cutaways of my hands touching stuff, and
Nice.
filmed all that, and filmed walking shots, and then I edited it into a full.
So you edited it as if it was the show,
As
and
if
you
it
were
was the
on it
show.
already.
Yeah, so
nice.
it wasn't
You just basically gave yourself the job.
Yeah.
And sent them the video.
Yeah,
Nice
exactly.
one.
So, and that's what they said. They were like, we couldn't believe you edited it all and actually made it look like the thing, because it shows what goes into making
Yeah.
a show and all the little details. And they were like, that was it. That's all it.
Yeah, you didn't tell people about the tree though, did you? Then
See,
I've heard this story this morning. So where we are, dear listeners and viewers,
No.
is we're in the garden where you film a lot of your screen tests and
Yeah.
your design reveals for Garden
Yeah.
Rescue, and this is where you film one of the screen tests and tell them the story about the tree.
So this was my first, I think one of the first screen tests I was filming, and I was talking about this sculpture that I'd designed in this garden, had made, and it's really beautiful, and it frames the view from different angles. And one of the things it frames is this really beautiful tree, and it's an ash tree, okay? It's clearly an ash tree. I know it's an ash tree, but on the screen test, as I was filming, I kept calling it an oak tree, and my client's daughter, who was kindly filming it for me because no one else was around, she was the one who corrected me, and I haven't lived it down since. Every time I come here, I get told off
Now
about it.
everybody will know.
Chris Hull knows nothing.
Knows nothing about trees. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
But it's the pressure of filming though, isn't it, and doing
This
something
is
like
it.
that, especially if like at that point you're not on TV, like you've
Never.
never done anything like that, and you're like, okay, I'll send you this video, and
Yeah.
so that's a lot of pressure. I
Oh,
think.
it was. Yeah, I remember the first like screen test that I was trying to film. I was like not hyperventilating, but I was like
Yeah.
quivering. I was shaking, almost I couldn't talk. I mean, I felt like such an idiot, but hey, it's all right now.
And how did you find it then, getting it once you started getting into doing Garden Rescue? Like, how did you find it at first?
It was really intimidating because you don't get any. I mean, like I know some presenters have got given presenter training and stuff.
Mm.
Like I know people on, I think on Gardeners World get presenter training
Yeah.
and stuff when they go on it. Obviously, I didn't have any of that or didn't get any. But yeah, the first episode I filmed. Well, bear in mind when you film one of the builds for Garden Rescue, you've already done a bit of filming before that. Like they film the design sequences and
Yeah.
film you talking and pitching design. So I'd had Steve, who's one of the directors on it. He's really brilliant because he eased me into it, and he's like, his advice was just talk like you're presenting CBBC. He was like, you don't need to sound like a children's TV presenter,
Yeah.
but you need that level of energy, because if you talk like how you're talking with your mate in a car or whatever, it will come across really flat. And
It is the energy, isn't it, that
Yeah.
you have to bring? Yeah.
exactly. So he's like, you need to just ramp it up, speak like that, and we kept tweaking it. He gave me advice, and eventually, I think after the first season, just knowing what they want from you, then it become a lot more natural.
And I suppose what we should do for anyone who has never watched Garden Rescue, explain the concept of Garden Rescue and how it works in a nutshell.
So Garden Rescue on BBC One is it's been around for some time now. I'm just filming series 9 at the moment, but I started on series 7 with that after the Rich brothers left it. But basically the star of the show obviously is Charlie Dimmock.
What a legend.
She is a legend. TV's Charlie Dimmock. She's the most amazing woman ever. She's just full of energy. She's hilarious. She's so lovely and supportive. And she's just like this endless fountain of knowledge. Even her bag is a fountain of goodies that she can
Really?
like fix everything with. She's just got everything with her all the time. But the whole idea of the show is you have a contributor, a client who has a rundown garden, or they've got an issue they need to deal with in the garden, whatever it might be, and then they pitch 2 of our designers against each other. So it could be me or Charlie, or me or Lee Burkhill, or Lee and Flo, whatever the pairing might be. You both come up with a design. The contributor picks one of those designs, and then you both, even if you win or lose, you both build it with the landscaping team and make that dream happen. And it's all done in 2 days.
And that's the bit that, as much as I said to you yesterday, like, is it really 2 days? And it is, isn't it? By
Yeah.
the sounds of it, it sounds like the most chaotic 2 days ever, to be honest.
Yeah, it is. I mean, obviously we do the designs beforehand, and they pick all that, and then it gives us and the project managers time to organise materials and get all that set up so that when the landscapers turn up for day 1, everything's ready to go. But it is, you work from 7 in the morning till late at night, 8 o'clock. You could do 13, 14-hour days easily. And it is flat out. We as presenters aren't just doing a bit and then sitting down. you're working and you're building things. And like last week I was building decks, building these like big laser cut screens and steps and all sorts. You're just flat out building stuff and planting and talking about plants and talking about this and costs, and it's just it's chaos. And then as soon as you finish one, you've got to drive to another hotel ready for the next day to film another one. And
because I didn't realise you're basically filming a few at the same time, aren't you, and basically swapping over. How does that work?
So you basically, there's day one and day two, and on day one of the build, the landscapers go in and start gutting the garden. They start trying to get the hard materials down, ready for day two, where we can do a bit more like timber work and planting. And so on day two, we arrive, do all of our work, get the garden finished, reveal it, have that big wow moment with the clients, and it's amazing. And then you finally wrap that up about 8:30 at night or something, and then you have to drive to an hour to another location, ready to do day two of another build the next day.
Wow. So it's constantly changing over.
But it's fun. It's a buzz. It's like that saying why we like to work really hard. And if you don't, you have to be like, you have to enjoy that buzz and stress.
You've got to be one of those people that thrives on it.
Yeah, definitely. And it's cool.
And how do you find working with the team then? You mentioned Charlie. You love working with Charlie. She seems like a right laugh. Like she's the type of person I would want to work with for sure.
She's brilliant. She's really great. I learned so much from her with how to present as well, because you just watch her and she just can turn it on like that, really, really quick. And she's just so funny. And she just grab the hose and start squirting you and knocking about and like throw a shovel of soil at you or something, just to lighten the mood all the time. And she's just really funny. And you can ask her about anything. That's the whole thing with the whole show. There's no hierarchy, whereas I think on some shows there can be a bit of that. Whereas there's nothing from Charlie all the way down to the runners and the sound people. Everybody is equal and we all have fun and everyone works hard.
I saw Charlie buying ice creams the other day on Instagram. So
we do that. We get ice creams. We get treats.
That was a nice little treat for you all, I'm sure, on a really busy day.
Yeah. But no, it's great, and everyone's great. I love working with Lee as well. We get on really well. We always have a massive laugh and always being really silly.
The famous
and naughty.
Garden Ninja Lee.
Exactly, the ninja with his big ninja army following. He's
big up the ninjas.
Big up to all of them because he's done really well and he has such a great following.
He really does, but he really loves it as well, I think, doesn't he? And he's great to work with.
Oh, he's brilliant. Yeah, no, he's fantastic. Everyone has a kind of different niche, things that they're really good at and different qualities, which is great because we're not all the same sort of, we're definitely not the same sort of designers. We all have very different styles, and even within what we do, some people are like, Charlie's great at water features. Lee is he's the most amazing, I don't know how to put it, really sort of amazing presenting. He's bang on every time. He just nails it. I'm a bit more kind of probably rough and ready with my presenting, I'd say. And I'm not doing loads of takes, but I'm a bit more kind of gung ho, I guess. But he's really good to watch present. He's fantastic, and he obviously knows his plants like we all do, and it's really good.
And you mentioned then the designing process, so that's what I'm really intrigued about. How does that work? So you go and visit a garden. It doesn't even have to be on Garden Rescue. It could be any of your projects. But you go and visit a garden that's probably a blank canvas or it's a construction site. And then how do you then take that from seeing that and then how do you get those ideas? How do you get it down on paper and how does that go?
Well, I could probably break it down into two different things. So there's the Garden Rescue way and then there's because
I guess that's quite different as well.
They're completely different. So I don't know which one you want me to start with.
Start with your personal way. Okay,
so my personal way. This is much more involved, and this will take months. Whereas Garden Rescue is, they're very quick turnaround. So if a client comes to me with a garden, whether it's an existing garden or a building site, both are very common because a lot of the time if someone's developing their house, they're doing the garden at the same time. So it's often just a pile of mud and that's what we're starting with. So stage one is you go and meet them, get to know each other a bit, see if you're going to be a good fit, and then basically produce, give them a rough fee proposal for how we're going to do it. And the fee proposal basically sets out how I'm going to stage this design. So once they give me the go-ahead to do the design, the first stage is coming up with a concept plan or a master plan. And to do that, we have to have a survey done of the whole garden with all the levels, the boundaries, the services, because I don't, I really go. I mean, most garden designers do, but it's, you have to get all of those things bang on from the start because you don't want to mess it up, and I want it to be super accurate. And if you don't get all those, you have to think about the technical stuff even at the concept stage, because or else when you come to start building it, you'll become a cropper and have to change the design.
Yeah.
So you do the concept and master plan, make sure they're happy with that, with all the mood boards and suggested materials, and the whole idea is you get them a really great flow that works for them in the garden. And once they're happy with the shapes and the layout and the flow, then we can really go down into the nitty gritty of like, which stones you want for there, which bit of paving do you want there, all of that. And then we move into like detailed design, hard landscaping, construction details, retaining walls, getting structural engineers involved. And then once all that's signed off, then it's planting plans, planting design. Already the whole time I'll be thinking of that.
Yes.
So they happen in stages, but they sort of ebb and flow. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess creatively for you, you're probably often jumping around and thinking, that plant would look great there if they go with that bit of the design. But for a client, you need to, I guess, break it down and make it in stages that gets them to that point, rather than jumping around.
Exactly, because if you start jumping around, if you don't get all the construction details right at that point, and you start doing planting before that, when you come to do those details, something could change, and then you've got to redo it, and you don't want to be changing stuff all the time. But yeah, from the master plan stage, I can imagine that garden in my head and know, like, there's going to be multi-stem trees down there and this there, and I can see it all, and I do that in the visuals to give them a rough idea of what's there, but it's obviously not species specific.
And how do you get into that creative space? Like, have you got a studio sort of space where you do that, an office, and what sort of, have you got like little things that you have to do to kind of get yourself into that creative space, or does it just come?
Yeah, so I have my basically the third bedroom in our house is my little tiny box room, is my office, and I also have like a co-working space nearby that I go and work at sometimes. And how I always start off, either a bit of paper or I use Procreate on my iPad, and I get their survey or photos of the garden and I just start sketching over the top of them. So I like to start by hand because you can really just be playful, make loads of weird shapes, you can scruff stuff out and just be really rough with it. And then once you start forming some shapes on the paper, I'm not even thinking about what the material is, I'm just thinking, okay, there's a big, we want a big fun area here, this is going to be where they socialise, this is going to be where they eat, this is, you break it all down, and then you can start adding layers on layers to that and refining it. So it usually starts off with iPad, Procreate or paper in hand, and then once I'm really happy with that layout, then I put it into Vectorworks on the computer.
That sounds really fun.
Yeah.
That Procreate stage sounds super creative, and you're just kind of scribbling ideas and flowing them out and seeing what happens. And
yeah, definitely.
That sounds really fun. And then how do you take that to that next stage of kind of graphic designing it all out properly? And I guess that has measurements and stuff like that to think about.
Yeah, and this is the most important bit really. So once you've got those rough shapes and and you're happy with that layout, then I basically take that image and put it into Vectorworks, and I scale it all up, and everything's to scale. And this is where you have to get everything right, because a lot of people, some people who are designers, they haven't got a physical background, they haven't worked on a site, or they might have the technical knowledge but have never implemented it, things like that. Or sometimes the other way around, like some people have got a bit of physical knowledge but they're not quite clued up on how to build something correctly. There's all these things, so you have to make sure you get that level of technical design right from the off when you're making that master plan, because if you start putting not enough steps in, or not putting a retaining wall on the plan there when you actually need it, when you finally give that drawing to a contractor, they're just going to laugh at you and you feel really embarrassed. I think it's really important that people try and really take consideration of all these things when they're designing a garden.
And what's the difference then between when you do that for a client that probably is a weeks and months process to garden rescue, and that I guess is all quite quick?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and it can be months. I mean, I've even had some projects of mine that if they're building a house at the same time, it can be years before they even start on the landscape. So and things change all the time, so that's really drawn out. Whereas garden rescue, we get given basically a design pack that has the survey, photos, video of them saying what they want, and then we use that, we work from that to build the garden. But the design for me probably takes a day or two to do a design for garden rescue, because they're very small. we have to design it in a way where it can be built in 2 days. So you have to use certain materials and only certain quantities of those materials to be able to build it in time. And usually they have very specific themes. They're quite quirky.
Yeah.
Some of them are very like bit pastiche. Some of them are really classy and nice. And
well, we'll come on to that in a second. Maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, I suppose they've got quite clear themes and ideas, and
exactly.
And like you say, you've got to be able to build them in 2 days, so they can't be overly complicated.
No, and the project managers and build teams are so good that I don't need to do technical detailing or planting plans for them. I can just say I want these sorts of plants. They already know how to build it. It doesn't need.
You've got to have people like that, I guess, because they can't be sat in there measuring things specifically and really getting into plans. They're just kind of going to whack the plants in, and you've got to be able to trust that they know what looks good and how that works.
Exactly, and we set it all out, all the planting and stuff on camera as well. But it's just everybody's so like a well-oiled machine on it now, so it all comes together really quickly.
That's good. And so on the subject of gardens that are kind of like Marmite, and when I was googling Chris Hull, I mean, we'll come on to some of the other things that come up in a minute, but it's hilarious. God. So, listeners, if you want a fun 5 minutes, then Google Chris Hull from Garden Rescue and just have a look at some of the articles that come up. I mean, I don't want to bash anyone's journalism work, but there are some hilarious articles. But in particular, obviously, certain things that blow up is when you've done some gardens that are very Marmite. So. In particular, there's a garden that people have loved to talk about in the press, which is the 50s garden that you did, which actually I saw I haven't watched the episode, I must admit, but I saw the pictures and I thought it looked pretty cool. There's like a little dance floor kind of vibe. There are fridges, I think, aren't there, in the garden like, or something like that?
I think one's a barbecue and one's a wine cooler or something, but they look like
That's
fridges.
Really cool. Yeah, they're like proper 50s fridges. There are like pipes and stuff. Like really, I thought it was pretty cool, but it's obviously a very specific brief. So how do you feel about that? And how does it make you feel when you see the press and stuff like that? What do you think about that?
So that garden, just to set the scene a little bit more on it, it was a really quirky couple who were lovely. They're really, really great. But the husband wanted 50s rock and roll and cars, and the wife wanted fairies, right? So I called it Fairy Tale 50s, and that was the theme of the garden. It was two halves. She had a fairy garden because she had all these little mechanical ornamental fairies that moved, and she collected them, and she wanted to display them in the garden. And then and they both loved dancing, so I gave them a 50s inspired dance floor with lights and checkerboard paving and those fridges and stuff. So it's just, I mean, it's bonkers. No one's ever going to ask for that if they came to me outside of Garden Rescue. But on Garden Rescue, someone's going to ask for it, and it makes a great story. But people, loads of people consider it naff. They don't want that.
Yeah.
But so it gets slandered on the internet for being like a waste of money or whatever. But I love it. If anybody watched that episode, the reveal was amazing. She was crying. They danced on the dance floor. I danced on the dance floor and they made me do this thing and they called me Chris the Snake Hips Hull and I was gyrating at the camera.
That didn't make the headlines, did it?
No, but it did make the opening title scenes for Garden Rescue for the whole season.
Oh, no. Well, the main thing is with any client brief is that you're fulfilling the brief that they want, isn't it? And that they love it. So the most important thing was that they loved it.
Exactly.
And clearly they did. And I think, for anyone else, it probably was a little bit Marmite. You either loved it or hated it. But I think it was fun. I think if the clients loved it, then that's the most important thing. But I also think, and that's the whole great thing about gardens and gardening. It's people's taste, different people's preferences. And that's the creativeness of it. We all do different things in the garden and do it how we like. And when you're a garden designer, whether it's on the show or not, you're helping them to create their vision. It's not necessarily your vision.
Exactly. And some garden designers, some of the big names, they have a style and that's what they do. And that's their practice. But with Garden Rescue, we all have our own sort of touch that we put on things, but we're still hitting these bonkers briefs that people give us and we're delivering what they want, just with our little spin on it, So they are bonkers, and I think all the press is hilarious, even if it's slagging it off,
Well, there's no press like bad press or any press, so it's all good, isn't it? I guess. But the other thing that's really funny if you Google Chris's name is the fact that everyone's obsessed with your age because you've never revealed your age to
But
the
I have grey
world.
hairs. Ooh, how old is he? He looks like a child,
You'll
but he's got
never
grey
know.
hair.
And they're obsessed with your elusive wife, who I can confirm is not that elusive, because we had a lovely night out last night, went for a meal, and she's the loveliest lady ever.
She is the loveliest.
But I guess people have just taken stuff from what they've seen on your Instagram, or what they've seen on TV on Garden Rescue, or what they can find on Wikipedia, and created their own articles, which is quite funny, isn't it, really?
It is. It's hilarious. I mean, I don't share loads of my personal stuff or share Zoe on my Instagram much, but obviously when I did, because we got married, I think that was fair enough to share.
Absolutely, that is
they
a
picked
moment.
up on it, didn't they? They thought, wow, who is this? His elusive wife. Wow. Yeah, so that was apparently a big thing. And yeah, lots of other weird stuff. Apparently I'm worth 1.4 million according to the net worth of some weird wiki page.
Yeah.
So where is it?
I know.
Has anyone seen my current account balance?
I can confirm we haven't been driving around in a Bentley for the last few days. I'm not seeing any sign of this money, to be fair. But that's, I mean, bonkers, isn't it?
So I think these things, half of them made by bots, half of them made by people just desperate to come up with a weird story, and
a lot of it's kind of clickbait articles, isn't it? Just it makes people read and click into it and want to find out more. But I mean, there was really no more to find out, because clearly they didn't have any information.
Yeah, and also just ask me, no one's asked me anything. I'd tell them.
Well, that's the thing. When you were saying, you were like, I'd just tell them anything if they actually asked me. So clearly, like, these people have never contacted you, is what's funny.
Yeah.
Well, there we go. Not so elusive wife has been uncovered. Yeah. No millions, I'm afraid.
No.
But no, it's all quite funny, isn't it? And I guess that's when you get into the public eye in any kind of shape, then that sort of stuff happens. But strange that people don't just contact you and ask you, though.
It is, yeah. And I guess we'll probably get more of it, and Zoe will become even more of a star.
She'll become a mega star.
Exactly, yeah, she deserves it. She should be a mega star.
She does. She is really cool. So I need to say a massive thank you to Mr. Fothergills for sponsoring the podcast. I've been able to work with the team, and they have been absolutely fantastic. Are you growing seeds this year?
Yeah, we've got a little greenhouse, and I do the same thing that I do every year, is I get really trigger happy with my seeds. I get them all up and I start picking them all apart, and they end up with 10 million seedlings of the same thing that I end up giving away to all of my neighbours, so like radishes and loads of bedding plants for my pots and sweet peas. But yeah, we do that and always have absolutely loads.
The best kind of neighbour. And what I've loved with Mr. Fothergills is just learning about the quality. So I was really lucky to go recently to see their trial grounds and the labs and stuff, and they test them to make sure that they have an 80% germination rate. So they're pretty much guaranteed to germinate, and that's higher than pretty much anyone else.
So they're foolproof.
So in theory, they're foolproof, exactly. So if you want to get your hands on some seeds, because really now's the time to start thinking about what seeds you're going to grow for next year and start stockpiling them and getting ready for next year. Use code TOM25 on the Mr. Fothergills website and you can have 25% off.
Yeah, get on there. Buy them now.
Get on there. So what's next then for you? So you've got some really cool projects on at the minute. I went to one of them yesterday, which was a super cool kind of construction stage project. Have you got some nice projects on?
So that is that's a very small garden in Bristol, a small garden but very highly spec garden for a couple of lovely clients, and it is small, isn't it? It's like very packed in, but the whole idea is that we want to distract from there's a bit of an industrialist site behind it, so we're making some really bonkers structure, which is essentially a living wildflower roof pergola that I've had all designed. I've designed it and then got it specially fabricated and signed off by structural engineers so it can take all the weight of this heavy green roof. And that's what you saw us putting in, which was
Ben
really
called
cool.
it a bush shelter. Did he? Has he told you that?
No, I know that. The running joke is that we were all calling it a bus shelter for a long time. But then, Hannah and George, the clients, were also on board with that because it was quite funny. But we have now changed the name to Meadow Shelter.
Oh, nice. And Ben, we should say, is project manager, isn't he, for Garden Rescue? And he works with you on some of your landscape projects as well.
Yeah, we worked together for a long time now. Yeah, so he helps me on some of my gardens and I help him on stuff, and because because we're not far from each other, so it's really good to work together. Yeah.
But it is a really cool structure that you've created, as much as we joke about it looking like a bush shelter.
Yeah.
It's a bespoke thing that you've designed,
Yeah.
and had people look at it and make sure it's structurally safe and stuff. But then you're putting a wildflower meadow on top. It's I suppose the best way to describe it for people who can't see it, and I have taken some visuals, so I put them over, but is that it's like a pergola, I suppose. It's a nice seating area that you can sit under and have a nice drink and whatever. But on top of that will be a wildflower meadow, essentially.
Yeah, and on the underside of that, it'll be like cedar boards on the underside of that with downlighters in, so it's really nice in the evening as well. But yeah, fully fledged wildflower meadow on top. And nobody does this, but the only person who is doing this and has done it before is John Little, so I definitely want to give him a shout out because he's awesome. All his work he's doing on green roofs and wildflower intensive roofs, and he does similar, not the same, but kind of similar-ish structures, so he's slightly inspired by him.
Yeah, well, it's a super cool, and just the garden in general, it's not the hugest garden.
No.
It's a really nice space, but what you've done with it to break it up into different sections, the planting plan that you talked me through sounds amazing. And as much as it, like you say, there's an industrial estate behind it, but it's a really cool Bristol location. The house has amazing artwork on it, which looks just stunning. There's climbing roses coming up the bottom of it. It's a really cool space. So I think it'll be really nice to see how, I want to come back and see it when all the planting's done.
Well, you can,
and see how it turns out.
Because that's it. They paid to have that the whole house painted in graffiti with that hummingbird in the middle, and so it's proper kind of street art, very urban sort of garden. But it is, when it's planted, it's going to look amazing, and it's nice because it's the sort of size job where I'm able to build it myself with Ben, and I love getting stuck in and building stuff by hand as well as just doing designs, because I couldn't do one or the other because I just need to do everything.
Yeah.
So.
And what's next then? Where are you planning to go next?
So I do, like I said, I do everything. So I do design work for myself and other people. If I'm doing really large jobs, so I work with a company called Johnston Landscapes, who are really good friends of mine, and I design a lot of gardens for them that are quite big, and they can be spread out across the country a bit more. So I do a lot of that work, which they end up building. Or I've got a few smaller jobs around Bath that I'll design and build myself. And then obviously I still want to do more TV work, and I've got everything. I just don't quite know where to go at the moment.
Yeah, you've got your fingers in loads of pies, but I guess that's nice because I think you're quite like me. You really like working and doing loads of stuff, but it's nice to have all the variety of everything and really mix it up.
It is, yeah. And something that I did recently, which one of the most enjoyable things I've ever built, was I did this garden room. You probably see I put it on my Instagram a bit. It was an art studio for one of my clients in a garden I'd already built and planted, and then she wanted us to build this garden room for her. And me and Gruff, he's a landscaper on Garden Rescue, we built this together, but we did it all with locally sourced timber, so everything came just up the road. We didn't use any ply in it because you can't get any ply in the UK, and all these sorts of things that we took into consideration to make it, and it was really enjoyable because you knew how much thought had gone into it. So I want to do more stuff like that, really.
Yeah. So I also saw on your Instagram actually that you posted about mental health and stuff like that, and you're quite passionate about that, aren't you?
Yeah, I am. So I don't quite know how I want to incorporate this into my work, but I feel like I need to try and do some good around mental health, because my dad is schizophrenic and has been since he was a teenager, and has really negatively impacted his life in a way. He's a lovely man, and schizophrenia is such a misunderstood mental health issue, because some people think it's split personality disorder and some people think they're really violent, and they're not the case, but people can become very extremely paranoid and delusional and scared and end up in psychosis, and he's been in and out of hospital over the years in sections, and I've got used to that and grown up with it, but lots of people never talk about it, and I never have done, really. I just get on with things. But once I shared that post, the amount of people messaging me, it was unbelievable. I couldn't believe the feedback of people being like, oh, I've worked as a mental health nurse for this many. It's so great that you mentioned it, or my dad's also schizophrenic or has this issue, and it's I couldn't believe the amount of people who were relating with me and talking to me about it. It was really good. So now I feel like I want to do something. I don't know what that is though.
You want to do a bit more in that space,
Yeah.
and give back in some way.
Exactly. And you know, whether it's I go and do a garden for a mental health hospital, or do something that raises money for a mental health charity. I don't know. You know, anybody give me ideas if you want. I'm happy to do anything.
Yeah, or maybe some people hearing this will be like, "That's us. Come and do our
Please
garden."
do. Yeah, no, because I'm really up for it. And you know, the amount of help I've had with my dad from people in the NHS and everything over the years has been amazing. So I'm always up for doing something related to that. So yeah, it's really important to me.
And we want to see more from you on Instagram. I've been persuading people over the weekend to do more on Instagram. So we want to see more of what you're up to.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll get you sharing a bit more of the builds and the stuff that you're doing and that sort of thing. Because I think we all would love to see more.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, everything that you're up to.
And it's all the behind the scenes stuff, isn't it? Because I've always historically been pretty lazy with Instagram and things like that. But, you know, I just share a finished project or a finished this, or maybe one sneak peek of something, a photo of it being built. Whereas I think actually what I like watching is the behind the scenes stuff and, you know, erecting these bonkers structures or just setting out some planting and even the failures as well. I think people love to see things go wrong.
People love the behind the scenes, especially whenever I do a behind the scenes of something. One of the biggest things every year is when I go to Chelsea, I'm lucky because I have a pass, so I can get in earlier in the morning. And I normally do a bit of a tour early in the morning when there's no one else around.
Yeah.
You can often see the designers making tweaks, you know, making sure it looks perfect for the people that day and frantically watering everything. And normally you see all the presenters filming because it's the best time, obviously, to film before it gets manic. They're all rushing around with the cameras, and Sophie Raworth's in the garden, you know, talking about it for the day ahead. But people just love those behind the scenes sneak peeks, behind the cameras and that sort of thing. And it's just a little run round in the morning. But every year that's one of my biggest things that people just love. And I think it is just getting to see behind the scenes of things and a bit more detail that you wouldn't usually and that sort of thing. And fails. People
love that
when stuff goes wrong, because I think it's just human, isn't it? It's just real.
Yeah.
And we're all human and we don't all get things right, do we? Really?
Well, that's why I love your content that you put out. Is so energizing, because you're just like, I'm just quitting my job. I'm crazy. Look at this. And I'm like, yeah, that's good on you. You go. This is so great. And it just fully draws you in. And you're like, oh my God, can't believe I'm doing this. This is bonkers. And you're like, yeah.
I think I've really just kind of tried to share the journey as it is. Yeah. And I'm quite a person who really feels probably the highs and lows. So when I'm loving it, I'm really loving it, and I am like, yeah, I'm doing it, like, come on. And then the next day I'll be like, oh God, why have I done this? Like, I don't know if I can do it, like, you know, and all of that. So I just share all of that, and I think it just helps. I've had so many messages from people saying, I'm thinking about doing it, or I've done it and I really struggle with this, or, you know, both sharing tips, but also just showing people that feeling those things is normal, and, you know, and just being so open and honest, I think really helps other people to know that that's okay, and to really understand what the journey's like, and that, you know, Instagram often is quite polished and everything's lovely, whereas actually just show the reality of it. And I think people have really respected that and enjoyed it, and, you know, and like watching along for the journey as well. I think people really don't know what to expect from me next.
Well,
really.
no, I just couldn't believe it. I like one that you've been obviously going to shows and doing these behind the scenes things for a while now anyway, all on the side of working a corporate job, and then you quit your corporate job and set up a business and started a podcast all within like 2 weeks. And I'm like, oh my word, how on earth are you alive?
I have worked a lot, and I think my partner is going to kill me. But I think I just really wanted to go for it, and I have been, you know, working on it on the side for the past few months. But I really can't. I'm very much like you. If I'm going to go for something, I'm really going to go for it, and I'm going to work hard. And hopefully people like that and get on board with it, and hopefully this is all worth it. But I think I just really wanted to go for it, really, and I put a lot of really long hours and long days, and kind of worked every day for the past few months, basically.
I think it's just going to go whoop. You're just going to keep going.
I hope so. I mean, the only reason that I do it really is because the whole point of me quitting my job and doing what I'm doing is because I want to enjoy it more. You know,
Yeah.
I really enjoy this. I think we've had a great couple of days
That's brilliant.
looking around the gardens that you're doing and catching up, and then obviously getting to record a podcast. Like, this isn't work,
It's
really.
surreal.
Like, it is work, you know,
Yeah.
but this is really enjoyable, and getting to meet amazing people and see great gardens and share that with other people and share
Yeah.
great gardening tips and ideas, or you know, all my social media stuff with people and that sort of thing. Then if I can call that work, that's what this was all about, was kind of being happy every day and really enjoying
Yeah.
it. So I do need to refine the balance because I'm not going to enjoy it if I keep just burning myself
No.
out constantly working. But I've really kind of pushed to kick it all off, and then I'll probably pare it back a little bit and find the balance. But
you need to do that for your mental health. But it's great because the industry is so nice, because you're lucky because you get to work. I mean, I get to work with different people anyway, but you get to work across, like, you know, flower farmers, garden designers, landscapers, you know, alcohol companies, who all work with all these different people, seed companies. You know, you get such a range of people to work with, but they're all kind of semi-connected to the horticulture industry as a whole, aren't they? And that's just awesome because you get the full range.
Yeah, exactly. I am loving kind of this niche of horticulture because that's what I'm passionate about. And I always said for years, if people said what would your ultimate career goals be, I always said if I can combine my love of gardening and horticulture with my expertise in comms and marketing and that sort of thing, then that would be the dream job. But I think I always thought that would be like head of comms at Mr. Fothergill or something like that. I don't think I thought that it would be my own business and doing my own thing, which is like how that, you know, just naturally came about in the last few years, that it just kind of evolved into that. Just felt really natural and really great. But that is the ultimate goal now, which I'm really enjoying, is that I've got to this place. But yeah, I'm ultimately doing that now in the best way because it's all on my terms. It's kind of, but yeah, working with amazing clients in the horticulture space in one way or another, helping them to grow, and at the same time they're helping me to grow. So it's all kind of really natural and really organic, and we just love every day. We have loads of fun doing loads of cool stuff with their social media or filming or their marketing and stuff, which is, you know, is stuff, that's my creative time. That's, you know, space to be cool and play around, and at the same time it's talking about what I love to other people, to loads of big audiences, to educate them about the botanicals that go into a gin, or, you know, the plants that are in season now at the flower farms and that sort of thing. So yeah, absolutely kind of love that, and just being able to share that with all different kinds of people.
Yeah, we're very lucky. I like, you know, even just being a gardener, garden designer, landscaper, whatever you want to call me, all my time. I do all of it.
Whatever you are.
I do all of them. But yeah, I like it because you can go down so many different niches. You know, there's people who are into big modern gardens, into wildlife, you know, rewilding gardens. There's just so many different avenues and niches, and they've all got their own little collective pots of really lovely people who are happy to help. And I think that now, you don't know where you're going to end up in 5 or 10 years, because where I was 5 to 10 years ago is so different to where I am now. It changes so quick.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just really keen to just kind of go with the flow, see what happens, see where it goes. I'm really passionate that my clients are like people that I would love to work with. They're brands that I really believe in and love to work in, and see where it goes, really. And yeah. And speaking of which, you were saying that you really like a rum. Am I right?
Yeah, I do like
a rum and a G&T if you're drinking with Zoe.
Yeah.
So I know that the distillery, who are our official SIP sponsor, should mention that they're going to send you a bottle of the spiced rum that they do. So that will go down a treat. So we'll send you that in the post.
Very, very kind.
So that will go down well. So the next few weeks, you are going to garden. You're back on Garden Rescue, aren't you, for the next few weeks? A few more intense weeks.
And then that's us done for this season. And also in September, which obviously just around the corner, the second half of last year's episodes are about to come out, so people can tune in and watch those.
Perfect.
I don't know the date, but I will do soon.
That's exciting.
So
we'll share that on your Instagram.
We will share that, yeah. And then, so I've got that, and then I'm basically focusing on my own work again. And I kind of, Garden Rescue's like this kind of like hectic whirlwind where I'm like doing my own jobs alongside Garden Rescue, and it's just slight chaos. And then once Garden Rescue stops, then I can actually sort of hunker down and get back up to speed with everything, and kind of set a new game plan and figure out where I want to go with everything, and come up with all my sort of new ideas of the direction I'm taking the business as well. Because I think that it's always changing, and it's still kind of navigating that, and God, it's hard to know if you're doing it right or not most of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think we'll all be looking forward to seeing the new season of Garden Rescue and the episodes that are coming on, and everyone will be avidly watching that now, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But also, if you don't follow Chris on Instagram, then go and do that, because Chris has promised that he's going to be sharing a bit more, a bit more behind the scenes, and I'm going to be working with Chris on doing that. So hopefully you'll see a bit more, and you'll see those dates when the new season comes out, and people can then follow as well with what you're up to next over the next few years and see what happens there.
Yes, please, yeah.
But thank you very much for joining us today. It was really lovely, and we'll look forward to following the journey and seeing what happens next.
Yeah, now I've got Tom on board, you're going to see way more, so it's a pleasure hanging out for the last couple of days, Tom.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right.